Alright, guys, here it is. I just got back from Marvel's Avengers Infinity War, Part 1. Although I don't believe it's a Part 1. It's a Part 1 in a series, but they're not calling it Part 1, Part 2 anymore, as far as I know. This is directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, who previously did Winter Soldier, which is one of the better Marvel films, in my opinion, and Civil War, a film that I liked at the time, but upon rewatch, I found that film to not hold up from a writing standpoint. Good action scenes, good acting, some really nice editing, some good drama, but Iron Man's plotline is ridiculous, and his motivation for why he's doing what he's doing I find just silly, and I don't think he has a point. I think Captain America is completely right the whole film, and it makes Iron Man come off a little dumb, and I don't get the arguments other people are making. It really bothered me with that movie, and I know a lot of people pointed that out when the film came out. There was a lot of criticism about that film, about how it really didn't make that much sense. It wasn't that logical how the heroes fought each other. Now, there was the big airport fight that was cool, and we got the introduction of Spider-Man, and so on. And they didn't call it an Avengers film. No, Civil War was Captain America 3, even though it was basically an Avengers film. I mean, Tony Stark was in it a lot. And I think it kind of hurt that film because I really liked Winter Soldier, and one of the reasons I liked it is because Chris Evans has kind of become really great as Captain America, and to me kind of become the heart of the MCU. And that mixed with the Russo's action scenes just made a very entertaining thriller comic book movie that felt gritty and grounded. It didn't feel over the top. It reminded me of the first Iron Man. I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I like Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought Thor Ragnarok was fun. Now, thinking back on the first Avengers back in 2012, it's really interesting because there was a sense of awe with that movie and excitement of, are they going to be able to pull this off? They made all these solo movies, and are they going to be able to mix these characters together without it just being a mess? And luckily, they hired Joss Whedon. I know it's Joss Whedon, but we call him Joss Whedon on this channel. And his background in television and some of the films he had made with Ensemble's cast really paid off in that movie with the collaboration, and he was able to balance all the characters getting stuff to do. And then we had Age of Ultron, which is a movie I think is entertaining, but is a mess. I think Ultron is one of the worst villains in the MCU. He's definitely not as bad as the bad guy in Thor: The Dark World. He's definitely not as generic as some other bad guys. And James Spader gives a good performance, but Ultron, the plotting was crazy, the pacing. Once again, Tony Stark just making dumb decisions. I did not like the editing of that film. It felt like a Michael Bay movie at times. I remember it had a lot of quick cutting and stuff I didn't enjoy that much. And it felt too derivative of the first film, despite Hawkeye being very good in it. So I think I have the general opinion most do on the Marvel movies. I'm not a fanboy. I'm a fan of the comic books, mind you. I'm definitely a big comic book guy. And I remember reading Infinity War several times. And to this movie's credit, I think it's a pretty decent adaptation of the original comic, even though they changed a lot of things. But I do like the Russo brothers. I do think that they did a lot of different things here, at least visually. And this film's been getting very good reviews, but there's been a lot of mixed reactions to it from some critics, with some people saying it's a classic, the best MCU film and epic, and others saying that it's overstuffed. Too many characters get the short end of a deal here. And then in general, it's just a piece of commercial merchandising. It's just about toys running around. There's a lot of people. There was one review in particular in Rotten Tomatoes that said this film is contributing to the death of American cinema, which I think is hyperbolic. But basically, it's a film that doesn't really have much of a story. It doesn't have much structure or narrative, and it really doesn't have a lot of character development. But that's kind of not what it is. It feels like a TV show, multiple TV shows going on at the same time, and like you're going from one part of the show to another. And that was kind of the intention with this, is 10 years of the MCU, you got all these standalone movies, and then this film doesn't feel the need to explain things to you. It just says, hey, let's mix these characters together, and you got to go with it. Now, I don't think the first Avengers did that. I think the first Avengers, to Whedon credit, actually kind of did have a story, and the team getting together sort of was a nice little movie in itself. And I enjoyed the Avengers. I remember seeing it in the theater on opening day, and people were applauding and laughing and talking throughout the movie, which I find very annoying and cringe. And unfortunately, in my screening of Civil War, people were doing the same thing. There was people that were talking when things happened. They laughed too hard at the jokes. Everybody clapped every time there was an epic moment. And it did feel like a movie that was just a series of set pieces. There was a criticism that I remember. I believe it was Paul Schrader when he was on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast. But it could have been a film critic, I believe. It might have been a film critic for Entertainment Weekly, where they talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark being a film that kind of killed narrative in big movies, the death of New Hollywood. And the argument was that Raiders of the Lost Ark is just a series of set pieces, that it really doesn't need story and subtext. And there's a point to be made of that with Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is just a series of action scenes that are perfectly executed with great jokes, and the momentum's built around just one entertaining little set piece after another. That's really what it is. Is it a high work of art? Now, I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I don't necessarily agree with that criticism, but I think it's an interesting point to bring up when you're talking about this movie. Because this film is just a bunch of big, epic scenes. The Russo brothers don't seem to care about less is more with this movie. Everything in this movie was more. Even the little intimate moments that are supposed to be the dramatic scenes where these characters are bonding and going through something feel like the biggest movie ever. I mean, this is Peter Jackson-like. This is Lord of the Rings-like. This doesn't really look or feel like a lot of the Marvel movies, excluding James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy or some of the visuals in Thor Ragnarok. But don't take any of this as a negative. I like this movie. I like this movie quite a bit, actually, and I was shocked how much I like this movie. I wasn't shocked. I like the Russo brothers, but Civil War really hasn't held up for me, and a lot of that has to do with the screenplay that was written by, what was these guys' names again? I believe it's Stephen something and Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Now, they wrote Winter Soldier, and they also wrote Thor: The Dark World, which is horrible, and Civil War, and I guess they're the go-to writers now for the MCU and the Avengers films. They've taken Joss Whedon's place, and Anthony and Joe Russo are the main guys now too. And they have the next film coming out this year. This film was shot with IMAX cameras. It's one of the most expensive films ever made. This film has a budget of $300 million, $350 million. And that makes sense because there's so many famous actors in this movie. I mean, you got Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr. in this. You got Bradley Cooper. You got Vin Diesel. You got Benedict Cumberbatch. You got, the list. Chris Hemsworth now is Thor. They pretty much got everyone in here. It's great. Chris Evans, T'Challa, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. Even though Black Panther's really not in this that much, but I don't think Marvel knew how successful Black Panther was going to be, and I think if they had known that, they probably would have put him in the movie a lot more. I think they didn't quite know. Also, this is not in the... I'm so using this on Box Office Addict this Sunday. That's amazing. But, yeah, this shot's actually not in the movie, the shot with Thor, so they must have added that to fool people, because that's in the first trailer, but the Hulk's never actually... The scene never happens. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way here. This is going to be a spoiler review, and I did a spoiler review for The Last Jedi when I came home from seeing that movie. And that was a pretty popular live stream. It got a few thousand hits, and a lot of people were in the chat when I talked about that. And that was kind of the basis of this. Is I watched a lot of people review this movie without spoiling it, and a lot of the big YouTube critics, and they were just very boring reviews because they couldn't go into anything, and I don't blame them. But Chris Stuckman even said, you could make an argument this really is a film you can't review without spoilers. And that is the weird thing. Like, if I didn't spoil this movie, I wouldn't have anything to say. I could talk about a few scenes and a few character beats and some things I picked up on and how I felt about it overall, but it really wouldn't be of any substance. There's nothing to really discuss, I think, without spoiling it. And you have to spoil it to talk about the beginning scene. The opening scene's a freaking spoiler. So I'm just letting everybody know right now who hasn't seen the movie, or if you care about spoilers or so on, do not watch past this point because I'm going to start spoiling the movie. And if you want to go in blind, if you don't know what happens in Infinity War, because there's a lot of spoilers, then do not watch this video after this point. That's about it. So I'm going to be getting into my main review of this movie now. But first, let me look at some of your things in the chat, and we can respond. And mainly I wanted to do this because I wanted to talk to some of you who've had seen the movie and try to answer some questions, and we can go back and forth with each other. Okay. Hey, Crazy Chameleon. Should have kept it small scale and only have Stark versus Cap. Oh, in Civil War. Yeah, I agree. I think that movie was... Everyone's talking about how this movie's overstuffed and busted at scenes, but I felt way more about that with Civil War because Civil War tries to be densely plotted and have a lot of characters. This film's not that densely plotted. This film is really just about the characters coming together, and Thanos gets the most story and character. Thanos is, I think, has the most screen time, or second most screen time. Thanos is in this movie a lot. Like, that really surprised me. You think Thanos is a great villain until they add Galactus to the MCU. That's a fair point. The Russo brothers filmed Wakanda better than the whole Black Panther. I agree. Also, a lot of critics are saying that this isn't as good as Black Panther, or that this isn't as good as Spider-Man Homecoming. This didn't get as good. I don't know how anyone could think Black Panther was a better movie than this, and that's just me. I didn't like Black Panther. I thought it was okay, but I thought that was one of the most overrated movies of the last few years, and I have no idea why people would say that this film is a step down from Black Panther. I think this achieves way more than Black Panther. I think Black Panther fails in larger ways because it sets up certain things that it doesn't pay off, or it doesn't achieve this artistry that it's trying to reach. Well, this film is exactly what it wants to be. This is the ultimate superhero crossover in the vein of those crossovers back in the 80s. Now, if you did not read Infinity War, Thanos, the Mad Titan, is in love with Death. And she doesn't love him back, so Thanos wants to get the Infinity Gauntlet to win over Death, and he plans on destroying pretty much half the universe. Now, they didn't stick to that in this. He is not in love with Death in this. I don't think they mentioned that. In this movie, it's more about him just wanting to bring balance to the galaxy and about his relationship with Gamora. Now, I don't think this is as good as the original Infinity War comic book, and a lot of that has to do with... I just don't think it's as epic in some parts. I don't think that the fight scenes are as visually interesting as some of the panels. In particular, there's a part in the Infinity War comic where Thor throws Mjolnir and Thanos just taps it with his finger, and I felt like that was a... There was just moments like that I didn't think were in this movie, even though they did a lot of cool stuff here, and they still have part 2. So I am jumping the gun a little bit here, but the way they ended this movie is kind of the end of Thanos' story in the original comic. So I was a little bit like, well, okay, where are you going to go with this? Are we just going to go completely to outer space? That kind of threw me off. But the original comic, I think, is a great crossover. Adam Warlock is very involved in that. Of course, Adam Warlock's not in here because he's not part of the MCU. Captain America actually has a lot more to do in that. The Silver Surfer has a lot more to do in that. You could say he isn't in love with Death in this movie, but you could say he is in love with Death in this movie, but not in love with Death. Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I don't think that's where they were going with that. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, obviously. I remember the exact moment where we both said, okay, this kid has talent. Yeah, I remember that moment too, because we didn't say it. Anyway. But I really enjoyed this movie as an adaptation, though. I think they got Thanos right. They kept the spirit of the character, not necessarily his motivations and his family and all that, but they got the spirit of the character right. And I appreciate that they spent so much time on Thanos and giving him motivations, more so than they did anyone else in any Marvel film so far. Thanos is easily the best villain that's been in an MCU film. Thanos wanted to save the universe from the ruin that was brought on Titan. He thought of himself as the only sane man left. Well, yes. I didn't really... Some people have said they get Thanos' point of view in this movie. That they understand and they think he has a point. I don't. I know it's the overpopulation argument. And I've also heard comparisons to Trump. They said that Thanos represents Trumpian America, the underbelly of someone we always knew was there, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think there's any parallels between Trump and Thanos. But also, people just talk about, I've seen a lot of reviewers say, oh, Thanos has a point. And I'm like, I don't think he has a point. I get that they try to go out of his way to do that. Adam Warlock could still save Gamora since she's inside the Soul Stone universe. I feel like the post-credit scene is misleading. Captain Marvel can't save them all. I think the Captain Marvel thing was just to set up the Captain Marvel movie that takes place in the 90s. I believe that's what the post-credit stingers was for. Well, I can't effing say what I really said. It includes every racial... Okay, Blood Money, don't go down that road. Thanos is a Marxist, and they are the worst. Boo, delete your channel. Why? I don't understand. Why should I delete my channel? I'm very confused, Dark. I'm sorry. But anyway, I know a lot of people want me to be negative about this movie because when I talked about this movie that I was going to review it yesterday, a lot of people in my chat were like, Infinity War sucked. So I went in not knowing what to expect. I'm like, is this movie going to suck? Oh, yeah, no, they'll throw Trump into anything. Every freaking journalist likes to compare. Everything has Trump in it. You're meant to understand Thanos, but not necessarily agree with him. I agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment. I actually think Thanos and Josh Brolin's like the best part of the movie for the most part. I think the CGI of Thanos, the mocap, him as a villain, he's kind of like the Terminator. They just can't take this motherfucker down. Every time you think someone's going to do something to Thanos, he just keeps going. It's like, holy crap, they can't do a thing to this guy. Although, we'll get to that later. There's a few parts about that frustrate me, but it's just a nitpick I have about writing like this. Why don't you build up an audience and chat about it over there? What are we talking about? I'm so confused right now. What is this guy complaining about? Dark, what are you complaining about, my friend? I don't understand. Anyway, let's get to the spoilers. This movie starts like a motherfucker. This movie starts with its balls hanging out, with its dick out. If any of you, and Blood Money, which is funny because he just watched Thor Ragnarok. I want to bring that up, Crazy Chameleon. I want to bring that up, but I have a few theories on that. So, there is the beginning of this movie. If you watch Thor Ragnarok, what happens is Asgard gets destroyed, and Thor takes all of Asgard off to with Loki, and then the ship hovers above them at the end, and you don't know who it is. Well, it turns out it's Thanos, all right? So this movie starts, and it's already done a time jump. This has already done a time jump. We didn't get to see a fight that went on. Thanos has killed half of the Asgardians on the ship. So all of that stuff that Thor worked for Ragnarok, this movie starts, and it's done. It starts completely depressing and like nihilistic. Like, it just immediately, Thor is in the hands of Thanos. Everyone around them is dead. Thor's clearly got his ass kicked. And the movie's like, F Thor Ragnarok. F that happy ending. There's no happy ending here. Thanos means business. I respect this a lot. I thought this was a great way to open the movie. And I'm just going to go through the whole movie. But I thought this was the best opening to any Marvel movie. By far. It was the first time an opening to a Marvel movie had weight to it. It had stakes. It had death. It made people not feel so OP at all. Like, it was really nice to see Thor getting his ass kicked like that. Even though he got his butt kicked in Ragnarok, it's like he was helpless. And basically he wants the Tesseract from Loki, because it is one of the Infinity Stones. So Loki is trying to make a deal with Thanos, or as Loki always does. Empire Strikes Back, clearly a middle of the story. I think there's some Empire Strikes Back, but I think Empire Strikes Back has more going on than this movie, and is a smaller movie and a more intimate movie. This is a much bigger, grander film than Empire Strikes Back was. So Loki's there at the beginning and said, hey, we have a Hulk. So the Hulk comes out and starts fighting Thanos. Thanos beats the crap out of the Hulk in the beginning of this movie. He bitch slaps this mofo. So Idris Elba is able to open the portal up, the rainbow portal, and send the Hulk down to Earth before it's too late. And then he gets killed by Thanos. So the movie starts off and they start killing off people. They don't wait. So that's the hard part about talking about this film if you don't spoil it. It begins with spoilers. It doesn't even slowly put you in that. Now, there was one character in Thanos' children, as he calls it, but they're people that he takes from planets. And this was Ebony Maw, played by Tom Von Loyler. I think Lalore. This is my favorite character out of Thanos' children. I like the design of this guy. I like his voice. He basically is the one that gets sent down to talk trash and be like, you should be happy that Thanos is here to kill you. This is a good thing. This is a wonderful thing that this is happening. Rejoice. It's a privilege to be killed by him. And the way he looks, his powers, his design, he's easily the best sidekick that Thanos has. So I really like that character, and I actually don't like what happened with that character so quickly. Seeing the outcome where he doesn't time travel or doesn't do something brings up determinism and the other time travel problems. That's what I'm going to bring up later. There is an explanation for Doctor Strange. Remember when Joss Whedon said Age of Ultron is my Empire Strikes Back? I remember when Joss Whedon said he was loyal to his wife. Huh? Huh? Now, after this awesome opening scene, and I'm just going to say that it's an awesome opening scene. It's intense. Loki dies. Loki gets killed by Thanos. So we lose Idris Elba, we lose Loki, half the Asgardians, Thor's got his ass kicked, and the Hulk gets sent to Earth. And then it says Infinity War. So we start with Tony Stark, who's with Pepper Potts, and he's talking about how he wants to have a baby. So this is showing that Tony's come a long way over the last decade, and Robert Downey Jr. is bringing a certain gravitas back to this performance and this character that I think's been missing over the last few films. So they talk about it, and then immediately Doctor Strange shows up because the Hulk crashed into Hey, what's up? The Hulk crashed into Doctor Strange's house, and he's like, "Thanos is coming! Thanos is coming! He kicked my ass! He beat the crap out of me." No, Loki's death was brutal, yeah. No, they don't F around. They don't F around at the beginning of this movie. They're like, nope, we're serious. Thank God, because one of my fears with this movie is they were gonna cop out and not actually kill people, and they were gonna do a lot of fake outs. But they avoid that. They avoid you thinking that from the beginning. They immediately kill people off, and it's like, okay, you're actually going to commit to this. And I do think those deaths are permanent, even though a lot of the deaths in this movie are definitely not permanent, and that's very clear. And that even happens in the Infinity War comic book, where pretty much everyone dies, and then at the end of the book, they use the Infinity Gauntlet to bring everyone back. So Doctor Strange shows up, and Iron Man goes off with him, and they team up, and they find out about Thanos, so they're trying to figure out a plan about what to do, and it's Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, and Doctor Strange's sidekick. So they're like, all right, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna fight this guy? It's like, oh no, we need to make a plan. And then he's like, well, why don't you call Steve Rogers? He can help us. He can figure this out. Well, the thing is, after the events of Civil War, which I thought were stupid, I thought Tony Stark was a complete moron in that movie, and I thought his motivations made no sense. Captain America's been on the run, and Tony has his little flip phone. Joss Whedon got nothing on Infinity War. I agree. I actually think this is a step up from even the first Avengers. This is a better sequel to the first Avengers than Age of Ultron was. This has the spirit of the first Avengers, where you see all the characters come together, and it's exciting to see all these, because it has the Guardians in this, but it's also, I think, a better looking movie. This is visually, the lighting of this movie and the special effects are far above most of the MCU. The shot composition, even the action scenes. The Russo typically do a lot of shaky cam and quick cutting, and I think it works well for Winter Soldier. And don't get me wrong, there's the fight scene at the airport in Civil War, but that was actually the second unit work was done by the John Wick guys. But this film is a step up for them as action directors and just as visual storytellers and filmmakers. I felt like I was watching the most expensive episode of a television show ever, and I don't mean that as an insult. So as soon as they do that, this giant ship comes down, and they're like, oh crap, we're screwed. So some of Thanos' henchmen come down to Earth, and Tony, Doctor Strange, and them are like, well, I guess we gotta fight these mofos. What are we gonna do? So they go and they start to fight him, and then Thor teams up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians follow a distress signal, and they find Thor. Now, this is, the lighting on the Soulstone planet was sick. I was like, it's a good-looking movie, man. Blood Money, you're going to be shocked when you see this movie, that it looks like a movie. We had this conversation that, like, Marvel movies don't always look like. This looks like a movie. Granted, when a film costs $300 million, it should look good, shouldn't it? But you see where the money went. This is a damn good-looking film. I was very impressed visually with this film, although, once again, it should look good. But it's a beautiful movie. It looks closer to what James Gunn did in the Guardians movies. So Chris Hemsworth meets the Guardians, and this is immediately funny. The movie is really, really, really funny. I don't know who did the punch-up on this script. I don't know who was the script doctor. I'm assuming they had a lot of people do uncredited work on this. I'm assuming James Gunn came in and did a pass on the script and added some jokes, especially with the Guardians. I'm assuming that some other writers came. They had to have. There's clearly a lot of punch-up in this movie. There's no way these two guys wrote all these jokes. There's no way. So this film has a levity to it that was kind of missing from Age of Ultron. Although sometimes I think it lacks some intimacy. It doesn't have like that scene where they go to pick up Thor's hammer. I wish there would have been more scenes of the characters hanging out. This movie's really non-stop action scenes and destruction. I mean, it really doesn't slow down. It's 2 hours and 36 minutes long. This is a long movie. So we get to the opening of the movie, and as soon as Thor meets up with the Guardians, I think James Gunn definitely worked on the script. He did, James Gunn. Okay, he did, because it feels like James Gunn wrote the Guardian stuff, because it's funny. It's really funny. It feels like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie at these points. It doesn't feel like other Marvel films. And that's what I really liked about it, is when it was on the Guardians, it felt like the Guardians of the Galaxy. When it was with Iron Man and Spider-Man, it felt like an Iron Man movie. Now, the characters I'll get to later who I think really got a bad deal here, which might get fixed. I think Captain America has way too little screen time here. I love Chris Evans as Captain America, and this being his return was very disappointing. He's really not in this movie that much. It's a big shock. Captain America's barely in this movie compared to a lot of the other people, and he really doesn't get that much to do. Captain America's a supporting character at best. He is not one of the main focuses of the movie, and that's I get that. But I think he's so important to the MCU, I'm not sure if that was exactly the right decision. But he'll probably get more to do in Infinity War Part 2. Chris Evans is great in this, and he has a beard. I'm always up for the beard. Everyone's got fucking beards in this movie. But the jokes immediately hit. There's not a bad joke in this movie. There's not one cringe joke in this movie which shocked me. I was expecting one really lame joke or things not to work. All the jokes are funny. This is one of the funnier Marvel films, and it's surprisingly comedic throughout like almost all of it. It doesn't stop having jokes in the third act. They keep the jokes coming. And there's this bit where Chris Pratt is doing Chris Hemsworth's voice as Thor, and they're like, "Are you trying to make your voice deeper?" And he's like, "No, I'm not trying to make my voice deeper," because he's intimidated by Thor and very insecure. What is the level of cringe in the comedy from 1 to Whedon? I would say this is a funnier movie than the Avengers films by Whedon, and I would say it's on par with Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I think this is like the second funniest Marvel film, or the funniest. I'd say it's number 2 though. But this film has some really funny bits in it. Like, I think so. And the theater all laughed, but I was laughing too at least 6 or 7 of the jokes throughout the movie. It was very funny, which actually shocked me. The Russo said they wanted to focus on Thor instead of Cap because they worked with Cap before. I understand that, but they weren't stupid jokes, and that's what I respected. I was expecting the jokes to be really lame. These are actually some clever bits, and even if you don't laugh at it, these weren't like poorly thought out jokes. These were actually really well thought out jokes. You could tell they worked on them, they refined them, and the comic delivery from everyone in the movie is pretty excellent. So Chris Hemsworth playing off Chris Pratt is awesome, and I'm going to say this right now, I think Chris Pratt kind of steals this movie. Am I the only one here? I think Chris Pratt pretty much just stole this movie for the Avengers. I think Thanos gets the most screen time, the most to do, but Chris Pratt is a fully formed movie star. He cannot be weighed down by special effects. He goes toe-to-toe with Robert Downey Jr. and kills it. He goes toe-to-toe with Thor and kills it. Every time Chris Pratt is in this movie, every time Chris Pratt gets a moment to be funny or emotional, he has this look in his eyes, this sense of wonder. And it's absolutely charming and terrific. I think Chris Pratt's the one who comes out looking the best in this movie out of the main Avengers. Everyone did a good job. But man, Chris Pratt is just, what a terrific casting choice. I mean, it's Andy Dwyer in an Avengers film. But I thought he was so charming in this, and just so, he made the whole movie have this lightness to it that it really needed in moments. And I think he was just such a good, he made this movie better. It was really, even the introductions of the Guardians, they're listening to Rubber Man, and he's flying the ship, and it just feels right. Including Dave Bautista, who plays Drax. He's very funny in this. They've just become really good actors, and their comic timing is just really on point. The two of them especially, I think, have just kind of, they really are these characters at this point, and I think they were just wonderful in this. I really think Chris Pratt, I think he stole the movie in a lot of ways. I really do. I think he shined. I think he outshined Downey Jr. in a lot of the movie, which really blew me away. Although Downey Jr. does get this really funny bit near the end of the movie that did make me laugh really loud. In my theater, it was like being with a group of timed-laughed robots. Oh, it was awful. My theater experience was awful. The theater was packed. Every time there was a joke, everyone was yelling with laughter. Every time a scene happened, like when Captain America comes out of the shadows, everyone clapped. People clapped like 25 times during this goddamn movie. And then at the end of the movie, there was a bunch of dudes behind me going, no, 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 no. And somebody was telling him to be quiet, and he was like, shut up, no, no. And I'm like, oh my God, oh God. I was going to kick this guy's ass. He was pissing me off. This was an adult male, like 35 years old, neck-bearded mofo wearing his superhero shirt. And he's like, I want to turn around and like, they aren't real. Spider-Man's not real. Motherfucker, did nobody tell you this? There's a little kid sitting by me who has more poise, who has better composure than you. This kid's like 8 years old, if not younger. This is like a 6-year-old kid, and he knows to be quiet and watch the damn movie, and everything you're doing. Children clap at movies. Every single thing in the movie, the audience was so annoying. It was so cringe. Like, and I just don't get this. Why do you clap in a movie theater? This isn't a concert. The Russos don't know you're clapping. The Chris Pratt's not in the theater like, oh man, they're clapping for my joke. You're clapping for yourselves. You narcissistic assholes. Like, be quiet. I was getting into the movie, and then I'm trying to enjoy a scene and be like, oh, that's cool. And then everyone's like, oh my God, they're doing the freaking Citizen Kane clap. They're Orson Welles that shit. They're just, oh, it's driving me nuts. Terrible audience. Terrible. I mean, the children were the best behaved. That says a lot about some people who are into the Marvel films. I'm like, dude, I love comic books as much as anyone here. Okay, I've read so much Marvel. I love Marvel, but damn it, people, just calm down a little bit. Oh my God. Anyway, to get back to it, so they all the characters split up. And dude, it was terrible. It was really terrible at my theater. That was annoying me when I was enjoying the movie. So the characters split up. The Guardians, Chris Pratt, Star-Lord. He's a motherfucking Star-Lord. So Star-Lord and Drax and Gamora, they go off to nowhere to find one of the Infinity Stones. And then Rocket and Thor and Groot go to get a weapon forged by Peter Dinklage, who's a giant dwarf in this. And I go, oh wow, they got little Robert Downey Jr. in this finally. Do you remember in Elf when he played little Robert Downey Jr.? They even have similar facial structure and facial hair. If Peter Dinklage was like 5'8", he would just be Robert Downey Jr. They're basically the same actor. So it was very cool to see him in this. Yes, I would go watch it again. I want to go see this film in IMAX. I think this film would be awesome in IMAX. So immediately what works about the film for me is they did a good job of splitting up the different storylines. They have, Rocket and Groot and Thor. Then they have the Guardian storyline with Star-Lord. Then they have Iron Man with Doctor Strange, who has the Time Stone, and they end up in outer space, and Spider-Man's there. Now, I think it kind of ruined Peter Parker's character arc in Homecoming, because the whole thing was about how he didn't need the suit at the end, and he didn't want to join the Avengers. And then, in this movie, immediately he gets the suit and joins the Avengers. So, that was kind of like it didn't annoy me, but it was like, the whole ending of Spider-Man Homecoming was about this not happening, and then this movie just takes that out in like the first hack. It's like, no, you're an Avenger now, and you're wearing the suit now. It's like, oh, okay. I guess the ending to Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't matter anymore. Whatever. I mean, really, that's how it was. It was like, they were like, who cares? Whatever. He needs this outfit anyway. Which it is cool. Like, Spider-Man can do all sorts of cool shit now. So Thor has to go get an axe made. I think Stormbreaker is what it calls, to fight Thanos, because this is the guy who made the Infinity Gauntlet, and it's Peter Dinklage, who Thanos killed everyone, all of the dwarves, and he sealed his hands in like this metal, so he can't make stuff anymore. And he also froze the stuff to mold the weapons, because they need stardust, I believe, to craft the weapons. So Thor and Rocket go do that. Thor and Rocket hit it off like two buddies. They just want to like drink and smoke cigars together, and they're just like chilling and hanging out. I kind of get that, but I still think I don't know. It feels like the solo movies felt a little disconnected from this movie to me. I think some of the things they did in the previous films, it's like they didn't care here, and I do wonder. It's like, well, then does it matter? And I feel that way with a few things in the movie. Nothing too serious, though. I understand what they were doing. They were just going for, like, the ultimate epic Marvel movie here. And they mostly pulled it off. It feels the closest to a crossover. And Thor keeps calling Rocket a rabbit, which I found very funny. He just kept saying, help me, rabbit. Okay, rabbit. Because apparently Thor doesn't know what a rabbit is? Or what a raccoon is. And I thought at this point he would know, but Thor's still a dummy when it comes to a lot of stuff, and he calls the Guardians morons. So Chris Pratt, Star-Lord's intimidated by Thor because Gamora talks about his biceps. So they end up going to nowhere where there's the Reality Stone. Now, this is a pretty cool sequence. The Guardians go there to get the drop on Thanos. Gamora stabs Thanos. And then you find out Thanos was actually warping the reality. It was all an illusion to mess with them. He just made them think that he was there and got stabbed. He already has the stone. And then he does this really cool stuff where, like, he turns Drax into a bunch of, like, cubes, and he makes the one girl, like, silly string. And Gamora tells Star-Lord, listen, he can't find the soul's gem. He can't find that stone. So you need to kill me if we get to this. So Star-Lord, who's in love with Gamora, doesn't want to kill her. So he goes to, I like how they have running jokes through the films, like calling Rocket different animals. So Star-Lord goes to kill Gamora, and I thought he was going to kill her. I was like, holy crap, but then Thanos has the shot be bubbles, and his gun turns to bubbles. This is a really cool, surreal sequence, and it reminded me of some of the stuff that was in the Wrinkle in Time book that should have been in the movie. It's really cool to see this stuff in a movie that we haven't really seen in a Marvel movie yet. They were actually playing with the reality and using the Infinity Stones, and I was like, oh, I didn't expect this. So that was a pleasant surprise right out of the way, and Thanos takes Gamora with him, and we get a backstory showing Thanos get Gamora from her planet when he killed half of her people and took her in as his daughter. Now, Thanos loves Gamora. This is established. She's the only person he really cares for. And she means everything to him, and she knows the location of the Soul Stone. So he wants her to tell where it is, but she's not going to tell him, obviously. She's like, just kill me. But he's torturing her sister, played by Karen Gillan. So while torturing, she's like, fine, I'll tell you. Because she doesn't know how to lie. Thanos didn't teach her how to lie. And they end up going to this planet where, here comes the big cameo, the Red Skull is in this movie. The Red Skull shows back up from Captain America. It turns out he survived after the events of the first Avenger. It's Hugo Weaving, and he tells Thanos the only way you're going to get the Soul Stone is if you have to sacrifice something you love. And Gamora's like, well, you're screwed, dude. You don't love anything. You don't care about anything. You screwed up. Well, then he just grabs her ass and throws her over a damn cliff and kills her. And it was like, oh, okay, sweet. So Gamora dies, which is one of the characters I thought was going to die in this movie. Thanos then has the Soul Stone. Things start to get a little bit more serious. Doctor Strange has been kidnapped, and Tony Stark and Peter Parker are able to break him out by using a trick from an old movie called Aliens, which is a joke that it was also Peter Parker bringing up Empire Strikes Back. And we'll get to the ending. This movie tries to have an Empire Strikes Back like cliffhanger. I said John Wick 2 was the Empire Strikes Back of modern action movies with the ending, but this film really does try to be like, motherfuckers, you want a cliffhanger? We'll give you a cliffhanger. Although I felt a little hollow and manipulated by it. I thought actually But we'll talk about that when we get to it. Pat, this part was my favorite part. Yeah, so Gamora's dead, and now we have teenage Groot. There was baby Groot after the events of the first Guardians. Now Groot's a teenager who doesn't want to be messed with, and he's just playing video games. And he's just there playing video games, which I love teenage Groot. I liked baby Groot. I like teenage Groot maybe even more. Although Groot's not in this movie a lot either. So Rocket and Thor end up becoming like bros, and they're able to get Stormbreaker made, and they have a lot of funny banter back and forth, and you feel like Thor's really the only chance for them to survive Thanos. While this is going on, Iron Man and Doctor Strange are starting to form kind of a bond, and I guess looking at each other and realizing, wait, we have the same facial hair. And they end up going to the planet Titan. Their idea is we need to confront Thanos head on instead of bringing him to Earth, where he's going to kill more people and damage them. So Doctor Strange is sitting there on Titan, and during this point, there's a meeting between them and the Guardians. So Star-Lord, Drax, the chick from Guardians 2, they end up meeting up with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man. And this is a really fun sequence, and then Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr. end up together, which is gold. These are the guys with the best comic delivery in the MCU, and the two of them together was a wise choice by the producers and filmmaker. And Kevin Feige really deserves a lot of credit for what he does here. There's one bit I really like where they're trying to come up with the plan, and Drax and the chick say something really stupid. They say kicking names and taking asses, and Robert Downey Jr. does like a 10-second pause, maybe even a 15. It's a long pause, and it's funny at first, but the longer it goes on and the look on Robert Downey Jr.'s face, it was honestly the funniest moment in the movie to me. It's just this look on Iron Man's face, and it's one of the best long pauses I've seen in a movie in a while. It was really funny. And it really killed, and I was like, man, this is a funny movie. It's actually like more of a comedy than anything. So Captain America shows up to save the Vision, who's being attacked because he has one of the Infinity Stones, and he's been banging Scarlet Witch, who wouldn't want to bang Elizabeth Olsen, and they're on their little vacation together. And so let me get into one of my problems here coming up, and it's with power levels. So Scarlet Witch, who is uber powerful, and the Vision, who seems like he is uber powerful, like he couldn't be defeated in Age of Ultron. There's this moment that they're fighting some of Thanos' henchmen, and they're getting their butts kicked. They're getting thrown around. They're having a hard time. They're fighting back, but they're really getting their asses kicked, right? And then out of nowhere, Captain America shows up. It's that moment where he comes out of the shadows and grabs the weapon. Black Widow shows up and the Falcon, and they beat these people. Black Widow gets the upper hand and stabs a dude. Falcon shoots at them at Cap. Now, how the hell does this work? How is Black Widow stronger than Scarlet Witch? How the hell is Black Widow stronger than Scarlet Witch? How the hell is she stronger than any of them? Like, I don't get this. Like, the power levels make no sense. Black Widow is a human being. Falcon is a human being wearing a flying suit, and somehow I can get Cap has super strength and is trained and has all these abilities, whatever, but like, why were they getting their butts kicked and then the three of them were able to synchronize this fight? I thought that was so stupid. It bothered me so much. It's like, why do they keep giving Black Widow these impossible things that she shouldn't be able to do? Like, it's silly. It makes the power levels make no sense. Like, if she's able to get the upper hand that easily, Vision and Scarlet Witch should have been able to kill them pretty quickly. It should have been effortless. And throughout the movie, Black Widow is just taking people out and a badass. It's like, come on, man. No, they made Vision all weak all of a sudden. Do you remember Vision in Age of Ultron and Civil War where he could just do anything? And he had all these superpowers and stuff like that? Now he's just like a pussy. He got a frickin' girlfriend, and then he lost his edge, man. So I didn't like that. I just thought that was very inconsistent based off what we've seen before. But it's still cool when Captain America shows up. Black Widow is like in this comics as well. She is way too powerful for what she is. Yes! Is this the best MCU film? I don't know. I think that's arguable. I think that I probably like Winter Soldier. And I probably like the first Iron Man a little bit. Maybe. It's debatable. It really is. This could be the best Marvel movie. The only reason I don't want to say this is I don't think this is much of a movie. It doesn't really have that much of structure, narrative, or even pacing. It's just one big action scene after another. So I don't know. I don't really know if this is a standalone movie. I heard someone on a review call Black Widow deserved to be more badass than they made her already. Dude, they made her like impossibly badass. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was like, how is she able to do stuff and they're not able to do it? It's silly. She doesn't have superpowers. Like, what is this crap? No, they cucked Vision, man. He lost his vision, if anything. And Doctor Strange, I thought, seemed weaker in this. Like, if you watch the Doctor Strange movie, that mofo was doing some crazy shit. I mean, he's like, he can do anything, and in this movie, he's just like, he can't do crap. Like, he has nothing impressive. Like, he does some cool stuff near the final fight. But for the most part, I was thinking, like, what happened to the power levels? Like, what the frick happened to, like, Doctor Strange's powers? What happened to the Vision's powers? Why are they weak, and why is Black Widow so awesome? Also, the Hulk doesn't want to turn to the Hulk because I assume it's because he's scared of Thanos. Yeah, it's hard to see this movie as anything as a sequel to all these films, so I don't know. I don't even know if it's a film. It's really hard for me to call this a movie. It's an experience. It's very unique. There's never really been anything like this before. And I'm serious. I've never seen a movie like this before. Only the first Avengers is comparable to this. But I've never seen a movie jump from so many different places. They go into space in this. They go to different planets. They go to different parts of the Earth. They warp time and reality. I mean, I've never seen a movie like this before. I've never seen a movie mix sci-fi and fantasy and all this stuff together. Doctor Strange kind of makes all the Avengers look useless. It's hard to balance that stuff. I still agree with you. No, I agree it's hard to balance that stuff, but I just wish I think there's a way to do it. There's a way to balance the power levels. But this film is basically just like the season finale to a television show. So it's a unique experience. I really don't know how to talk about it as a film. It's tough to review because it's not really a movie, I feel. I feel like it's just and that's where some people are criticizing it. They're saying it's just merchandise on screen. It's a bunch of toys and it's commercialism at its worst. Yeah, it's an experience. That's the only way I can describe it. It's not really a film. It doesn't follow a lot of traditional structure. It doesn't follow a lot of rules of cinema. It doesn't... and you have to know these characters' backstories to really get this movie. I felt like Captain America was pretty useless. I really did. I don't know if Captain America... It does feel more like a TV series, I agree, which I don't think is a bad thing. Because I like television. It does feel, Captain America did. I was shocked how little Captain America did in this movie. And I was shocked how little screen time he had. Because Chris Evans is really the heart of the MCU, and he's so good. And he just doesn't do that much in this movie. He doesn't even get that many big moments. And Chris Evans is doing a great job. But I do think he's going to be in Infinity War Part 2 a lot more. In fact, I'm certain that that's a big reason why they did this way. Also, once again, if they had known how big Black Panther was going to be as a movie, I don't think they would have had so little screen time for T'Challa. Yeah, Cap really did just come off like somebody's guard. It feels like the penultimate episode where the villain gets the upper hand. Did no one look at the official handbook of the Marvel Universe to check power levels? What is this, amateur hour? Yeah, I do feel that way. It is weird. It does feel like they didn't check the power levels. That is an issue when you have different filmmakers doing movies that were made by other people. And to the Russos' credit, I'm shocked they pulled this off as well as they did. I think this is a great achievement for them, that they're able to make a movie out of this, because it's pretty damn crazy. Yeah, I think Winter Soldier's the best Marvel film for me, probably. I still think that, especially the first two acts. So, anyway. So, yeah, this is the most sequeliest sequel to the sequel ever. So, Thanos is just kicking everyone's ass. They start to take out some of his children. And then Steve Rogers ends up on Wakanda. Bucky's back. And the job is there to bring they bring the Vision to T'Challa's sister, who's the smartest person in the MCU. Apparently, she's smarter than Tony Stark and everything, and she's going to try and remove the Infinity Stone without killing the Vision because they don't want to kill the Vision. This is one of my issues with the movie. This is one of my big issues with the movie. And I have this issue with all kinds of storytelling that does this. I hate when people don't do what's necessary because of the feels. I hate that. And this movie has moments like that I just don't like it. I think it's bad writing. And I don't like this in any movie, for the most part. They can just destroy the Infinity Stone on the Vision's head. Scarlet Witch can destroy it. They establish this. And they don't do it because she loves him. And Captain America's like, we're not going to give up one life to save the universe. That is stupid. That's freaking stupid. Vision is a robot. Like, what? What the hell is wrong with you people? If she would have just destroyed the Infinity Stone, things would have gone... And there's another moment in this movie like that with freaking Star-Lord. Where Star-Lord, if he didn't hesitate, and he would have been quicker to kill her, even though Thanos was warping reality, so that one gets a pass, because at least they had that element there. He could... You know, that's the thing. He doesn't let the feels. I just hate that. I hate that kind of writing when people's emotions go over their logic. It's silly. It's freaking silly. It's like nobody would do that. Like, you would just kill Vision. You would just destroy everyone would decide that's the right thing to do in the situation. If half the universe is going to get destroyed, you wouldn't hesitate. Vision's the only person in this movie. He's like Spock trying to talk to a bunch of morons. Like, this is the only option we have. And the worst thing is they end up going there anyway. They end up going to do this anyway, so it's pointless. They end up having to destroy it anyway, and by then it's too late. What the fuck, man? And Star-Lord has the same issue. No, it didn't suck. It's a good movie. That part just... that's something I don't like. Luckily, the movie doesn't do this. Luckily, this movie's pretty consistent. But the Star-Lord points the frickin' gun at her, and it's like, oh. And there's a moment later with Star-Lord. Oh my god, where they did that. That was like the worst thing. But we'll get to that when we get to the big action scene. So, everyone's at Wakanda now. Oh, and Bruce Banner. I've hardly talked about Bruce Banner. Yeah, he's scared. Hulk's scared of him, and he can't turn into Hulk anymore. I hate when characters don't act logically, but act because of the movie feels. It's like the Rose effect. It is. That's a huge issue with writing. Do not do this, screenwriters. That is lazy writing. Come up with a logical reason why the character can't do this thing. Do not rely on the feels and make smart characters stupid out of nowhere. Yeah, no, it was. Whoever saves one life saves the world entire. It was. I know. It was so silly. It just ticked me off. So, Doctor Strange is sitting on Titan, and he thinks of 14,605. He goes through all the versions in the future of every scenario that's going to play out in the future of them versus Thanos. And somebody asks, how many of them do we win? And he says 1. So out of 14,605 outcomes, there's only one outcome where they win. I believe that was in the comics that Hulk is actually scared at some points and won't come out anymore. But I could be wrong. I do think that's a thing in the comics. So now Bruce, yes, they're all coming back. Well, we'll get to that. None of the things... The ending of this movie is not the ending of the story at all. Not even slightly. No question. The fact that anyone in the theater was upset about it and, like, thought that it was serious... Kind of... It was like, are you really this dense? Have you not been paying attention? It's clear that all of these people aren't going to stay dead. Or be dead. It's 100% clear in that way. All of the heroes failed in this way that then my heroes don't do what's necessary to take down this guy. Gamora tells him in the place what stone was Doctor Strange giving him the stone. So Doctor Strange goes through all these scenarios, which actually sets up something really interesting. Yeah, nobody seemed to understand the weight of the situation. It just kind of confused me. Like, they're all willing to sacrifice them, at least except Thor. I think Thor actually understood the seriousness of this, and Thor actually almost sacrifices himself to get his weapon. So I actually give Thor a lot of credit. I think Thor actually really understood how serious this was. Everyone else, I don't think, and probably Tony Stark as well. So that's a cool little moment. It sets up this determinism, like someone said in the chat, which is cool. Well, I can't talk about Venom yet because we're talking about this, and I still have a lot of stuff to go through. So that's the thing. It's a perfect ending to the MCU. Wonder what would happen if the Punisher showed. Yeah, he would kill Thanos because he's not a punk bitch. I like Thor in this film a lot too. He felt very heroic. He has a moment where he has to keep the gate open to make the weapon, and it could kill him. And he's willing to do this because he knows he's the only person that could wield the weapon and have a chance to fight Thanos. So Thor really felt like a hero in this movie, and I really like that about him and him and Rocket's relationship. And obviously Teenage Groot. So they're all at Wakanda, and they're working on getting the Vision's headpiece, getting the Infinity Stone off, instead of just destroying it like they should, which would have made more sense and is what somebody would do in real if this movie was realistic on any level. Yeah, he can rewind time, but they actually kind of have a reason why he doesn't do that, I think. I don't know why Doctor Strange didn't rewind time, but I guess it's because he saw every scenario. So I guess he saw scenarios where he did rewind time and they didn't work. So that's probably why Doctor Strange didn't do it, Blood Money. There's a point that he sees every single outcome. So I think he sees an outcome. If he rewinds time, it's not going to work. So I believe that's why Doctor Strange doesn't do it. Because I was thinking that too. I was watching the movie like, why doesn't Doctor Strange just keep rewinding time over and over again and keep Thanos in a time loop like he did the ending of Doctor Strange? But I guess it wouldn't have worked because of the Infinity Gauntlet. So now there's a Wakanda fucking fighting force. This is the Black Panther fighting force. Wakanda forever. And she's like, you said other people could come here, and I was hoping we would get a Starbucks in the Olympics. I don't think Marvel would have wrote that Starbucks joke in there in Wakanda if they had known what was going to go down, which was absolutely hilarious. That was so funny. I'm sitting there like, oh my god, they had no idea. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, Kanye West should have been in this movie, damn it. There is something about that. I think that is the only way to win, but I also think Tony Stark's essential to this, but we'll get to that. Although I'm a little upset about this too. So it's there's a really funny scene where Drax, where he says, they were like, how long have you been standing there? And he's like, 1 hour. And he's like, I'm invisible. And Dave Bautista's like trying to show them how quiet he can be, and this was very funny. That guy's just so freaking funny. Yeah, the Starbucks thing, man, that's hilarious. That's so funny. It's like, Wakanda wants a Starbucks. There's no racial bias. Come on. So Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Black Widow, all of these characters, are on the planet. Doctor Strange felt out of place in this movie, like he could have been a Deus Ex Machina character, but he was dumbed down so much where I felt off. I agree. He didn't feel like he did in the previous film. He didn't feel as smart as he did in the other film. Like, he didn't seem like he was this really intelligent surgeon, cocky guy. He didn't come off like he understood everything, and he didn't seem as strong as he is either. Like, that bothered me. Like, he didn't feel like Stephen Strange from the previous film. And I thought Thor Ragnarok did a good job with that character. But yeah, he didn't have his, like, cockiness. He wasn't the smartass that he was before. And he didn't have as much gravitas as I was expecting. I was a little disappointed in Doctor Strange in this movie. I was expecting a lot more because I really like Doctor Strange. He's one of my favorite comic book characters. And yeah, it felt like they didn't know what to do with him because he was so powerful that they were like, crap, what do we do with this guy? Because they made him so strong. I mean, the fights he's having in his movie, I mean, they're already warping time and reality and all that stuff in that movie, and there's really not that much stuff in this film. And I thought there was going to be more of that with Doctor Strange. So, anyway, some of his children come down to get the Vision, and they send down all of these monster creatures. That's why Doctor Strange gave the stone to save Tony. I guess Tony is... Tony is. That's exactly what it is. That is definitely... No, that is cool when Doctor Strange multiplies. There are a few moments when Doctor Strange feels like Doctor Strange. That's probably the best moment. So they have this big Lord of the Rings Braveheart battle where everyone in Wakanda and the Avengers fights all of these little minion creatures, and they have a giant force field around them, and they're trying to give enough time to T'Challa's sister to destroy the Infinity Stone and remove it, because she knows she's smarter than everyone. And Bruce Banner is in the Hulkbuster armor. Doctor Strange is legit too OP. That's why he couldn't really fight Thanos until everyone else has been beat. Yeah, it does. It is weird. I will say that was a weird thing how they did kind of nerf him. So there's this big fight scene at the end. Captain America, get this man a shield. He's got 2 giant shields on his arms. He's fighting things. Black Widow's fighting people. Did they explain how they could suddenly hurt the Vision? No, not really. Vision all of a sudden was nerfed too. He wasn't as strong as he used to be, and I really don't know why. And it wasn't really explained that I can remember. No, there was some trippy scenes. There's definitely some surreal, acidy stuff in this movie. So I was wondering how the Hulkbuster was going to be in this movie. I was kind of confused. Like, well, Tony's doing this, but he's in the Hulk. But I never thought that it'd be Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster armor, which was actually... Also, Bruce Banner really doesn't get a lot to do in this movie, and he's kind of just the comic relief. Shh. God, that's a great job. I mean, he looks awesome. Way, way underused. I wish this guy had been in the whole movie. He's freaking awesome. If Scarlet Witch had stayed upstairs, sure he would have been able to finish the job. Yep, that is exactly true. The Wakanda battle was the force field scene from Star Wars when the Gungans fight the droid army. It did kind of feel that way. That's definitely... that's a good point. Is it the filmmaker's fault that these dime store comic book characters were OP? No, this is an issue in the comic books as well. Sometimes characters are stronger and they have a hard time balancing it when they do crossovers. This is an issue when you have a lot of strong... Because they made these people godlike, some of them. They've made like Thor and Doctor Strange and some of these characters so strong. The Vision seemed godlike. The Vision seemed unbeatable. So it's kind of tough to... It was weird with this movie, but I guess you just have to ignore it for the sake of the movie, or there would be no drama and tension and so on. So there's this awesome fight scene. It's pretty exciting. They're fighting on Wakanda, but the real fight scene that's awesome is Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Drax fighting Thanos on Titan. This is the best fight scene of the movie, even though there's an awesome fight scene early on Earth that's really cool. This fight scene is great because they actually have the proper plan to defeat Thanos. Remove the Infinity Gauntlet from his arm. That's the best plan to defeat Thanos. Of course, because once you remove that, it's over. You have all the Infinity Stones and all the power, and you can just kill him in 5 seconds. So they have this plan that they set up where they're going to basically keep maneuvering around with Spider-Man shooting webs at him. Iron Man's blasting at him, punching at him. Doctor Strange is setting up portals for everyone so they could jump through. It honestly felt like playing Portal. And they're all jumping through portals, and Drax and all that, so they can hold Thanos in place, and then she's going to keep his mind, she's going to block his mind so he doesn't, he's not able to fight. Because I can't remember this chick's name off the top of my head, unfortunately, but she's from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yes, this is where Star-Lord messes up, and it's one of my big issues with the movie. So then their plan pretty much works in this fight scene. They're able to keep Thanos locked down. They have him tied down. Drax has him down on the ground. There's webs all around him. She's got him held down on the mine. Star-Lord's pointing a gun at him. And Spider-Man and Tony Stark, Iron Man, are pulling off the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, I don't know why it didn't just come off. See, in the comic book, everybody was trying to pull it off throughout the whole run before Thanos pretty much destroys everyone. Mantis, thank you, Mantis. Thank you for... Because I couldn't remember her name off the top of my head. I wouldn't be surprised if different production teams don't even communicate or watch each other's MCU movies. Consistency is low on the priority list for... I disagree with that. I think Kevin Feige oversees all of this stuff. And I think he was very involved with this movie. And I think it shows. He's a very good producer. Yes, is this Deathly Hallows Part 1 for the MCU? So this plan totally works. It's an awesome fight scene. They're about to get the Infinity Gauntlet off. And then Star-Lord's like, yo, where's Gamora? Where's Gamora? and they're like, "Oh, actually, you know what happened to her." And Tony Stark's telling Star-Lord, like, "Dude, calm down, Peter Quill. Chill. All right? Don't overreact here. Like, we're about to get this thing off and we're about to win." And Star-Lord's like, "Where is she?" And then Star-Lord finds out that the Gamora's dead. So, instead of just... And I know Peter Quill's an emotional guy. I understand that. I understand that his character... And the first Guardians reminded me of Ice Pirates and like a little Buckaroo Banzai. And I get that his character isn't the smartest guy on the planet. He's not an intelligent dude. I get that he's an emotional guy and that's part of his character. But man, so when they're about to get the Infinity Gauntlet off, they're so close to getting the damn thing off. Yeah, I wonder. That's a good question. Is Star-Lord always going to fuck up? Star-Lord starts punching Thanos in the face with this gun, which snaps Thanos out of Mantis's mind trick, and then Thanos is able to get out. So because of Star-Lord, because Tony has to go and grab him and pull him off, and then it's only Spider-Man left pulling it off, and he's so close. I mean, he's about to pull it off. So because of freaking Star-Lord and his emotions, because of the feels, he has to... I understand he feels insecure. I just hate when people don't think of the weight of the situation. Like, you guys had a plan. The plan's being executed. There's only one way this is going to work without you dying, and this has been explained to you many, 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 many times. Like, they all know the stakes of this and that Thanos is going to win, and they can't beat him, and the only chance is getting the gauntlet off of him. So, like, it's just, it drives me nuts that this is how they did this stuff in this movie, that Star-Lord and Scarlet Witch, because they're emotional, they can't get the job done. If Star-Lord had just stayed and waited, they would have pulled off the Infinity Gauntlet, and then also she would have destroyed the Vision's Infinity Stone, and Thanos would have won. It feels like fake drama and conflict. It doesn't feel earned. These moments don't feel earned. They don't feel like really clever writing and them getting defeated. It just makes them come off stupid. And I don't like that. I don't like that kind of writing, and I don't think it worked here. It wasn't horrible. Like, it didn't ruin the movie or anything. The movie's not bad because of that, but they could have figured out another way for them to fail in this mission without it being Star-Lord making these mistakes, emotional mistakes. I really don't like that kind of writing, and I think it's lazy. It's just lazy writing. You don't have to actually write an interesting scenario. You just have to go, you know what? He feels this way, so that's why. They did that in Civil War, too. Like, Tony feels this way, and his feelings matter more than his brains. Pat, how could there be a part 2? I could explain how there could be a part 2. I don't know. I thought it was consistent with Star-Lord's character. The guy is in bed with loss and gets too easily emotionally attached to people. Yeah, but, like, it's just, like, that makes him just kind of a lame character in a way. Like, that's not a good character trait. It is consistent, but it's also kind of lame at the same time. That's the thing, like, it's obvious. Like, it feels manipulative. It feels too constructed. It doesn't feel like an organic piece of writing like it should. It doesn't have this sense of surprise and intelligence to it. It's like they're relying on that character trait with Star-Lord instead of subverting it or doing something interesting and challenging us. They're doing exactly the cliche thing that we think they're going to do, which makes the moment have less tension than it should have. It should be a really tense moment, but you know exactly how that scene's going to play out. And you know what Star-Lord's going to do. And it could be better. Like, it could just be better writing. Like, you can come up with a different... It's okay if Star-Lord's emotional and he's conflicted and he's insecure and he's upset about Gamora, but that doesn't have to be the thing that makes it where they can't beat Thanos. Don't make that the reason that they don't get the Infinity Gauntlet up. There's so many reasons they could have come up with. Don't make it that reason, because that takes the weight out of that moment and makes it feel less epic than it should. For me, that's how I feel. I don't like when characters, their feelings are the only reason that these things happen like that. I really didn't like it in that. I don't think it was totally earned. I think that moment feels very constructed. Yeah, Iron Man's using the nanotechnology, and his new suit can just be put together, and Iron Man can just do anything now. He could just, like, develop guns and Spider-Man has this too. Like they don't need to attach parts or anything. Now his suits, nanotechnology. Now his suits are like, and I think they established this in. I think it was Civil War they established this. Yeah, in Civil War his suit started to do that, but it's pretty cool. Like Star-Lord should have been like, oh, you killed Gamora and took off the glove himself somehow. That Thanos is just as badass without the glove. They find that he takes that ship. See, that would have been good if Thanos still beat the crap out of them once he got the glove off, that he didn't even need it to beat them. That would have been interesting, actually. Keep getting the hate for saying Spider-Man 2 is my favorite superhero movie. Spider-Man 2 is a great movie. Love Spider-Man 2. So anyway, Star-Lord, he screws up, and then they all start getting their asses kicked again. They get knocked around. Iron Man's new suit is awesome. I really liked Iron Man in this. I think Robert Downey Jr. was great in this. I think Iron Man's never been cooler. He's got this Astro Boy thing where he can like make his shoes one rocket that blasts, that makes him like Astro Boy. That's really great. The nanotech suit is based on 3 different suits. Skin from the early 2000s, Bleeding Edge from the Fractions run, and the nanosuit from Bendis's run. Could it be possible to make an Iron Man suit out of vibranium? The drama feels artificial in a way that the emotional conflict appears out of nowhere. It's like a pathos sorcerer is casting emotional spells on random... I did feel that way. This movie does feel like there's the drama does feel artificial in this movie a little bit. Luckily, they have good actors, but it doesn't feel that natural. There is an artificiality to how this movie executes these dramatic scenes in the ending. I don't think that makes it a bad movie again, and I don't think that hurts the movie so much. But it is kind of an issue that I think they should have tried to work around, and I think they could have done a better job. Personally, I think they could have done a better job with the drama and the pathos. I don't think it really felt like they earned it, and they did it in a very smart way. It felt like you were going through the motions, like it was too calculated, and they knew they had to hit these beats to get audiences to respond to it. Yes, no doubt. Tony has a suit in the comics. Oh, sorry, I'm reading to something. Reply. I like Tony's suit in the first movie when his suit was all practical. Yeah, but Tony's suit is really cool. Like, he can just make giant guns now. He can make knives and stuff. He can pretty much do anything with the suit, which makes sense for this movie. So it ends up just being Tony Stark fighting Thanos, and that Tony Stark gets stabbed. And this moment is so intense, and the whole theater got sound. It felt like, oh my god, they're going to kill Iron Man. Awesome. I'm so excited about this. This is the right moment. And Thanos has that line I love. I hope they remember you. So I thought, oh, what a great thing. Tony is going to be the thing that dies, and he's going to become like a martyr, and he's going to get the Avengers to team up to fight Thanos. Tony's going to represent everything that they fought for. They're going to avenge him, right? That was the feeling in this scene. It seems like his suits gets more badass with each film. Yeah, for sure. It did remind me of Samus Aran. That's a good call. Yeah, Metroid. And it was like kids started bawling when Tony got stabbed. No, everyone, and it was a nice moment. I thought, great, you're gonna kill Tony Stark, 10 years of the MCU. That's awesome. And he says, I respect you, and I hope they remember you. And Tony's about to die. He's got blood coming out of his mouth. And I thought, wow, you guys executed this pretty damn well. This is a good way to end this movie, or to wrap up. Because I knew the movie was going to end on a cliffhanger. It was obvious, because you could tell the movie didn't have much time left. But Doctor Strange then says to Thanos, if you spare his life, I will give you the Time Stone. And he says, no tricks? And he goes, yeah. So then Doctor Strange gives him the Time Stone, and Thanos spares the life of Iron Man. And Iron Man's like, why'd you do that? And Doctor Strange says it's the only way. So the conclusion we are supposed to come to is that Doctor Strange saw those 14 million outcomes, and the one outcome that works, I'm assuming Tony Stark has to be alive. And that was the writing that they were trying to make. Or they were trying to convey here, is that Doctor Strange knew that the only way they were going to win at the end was for Thanos to get the stones, and Tony Stark is the key to winning, because maybe he's the smartest, maybe he's the one that's going to figure it out and solve the issue. I guess that's what they're trying to say, is that Tony has to live, and to let him die, that seems like what they were doing. If Tony died, that would affect then that would be a definitive loss. If Tony died and he didn't give him the time stone, Doctor Strange knows then that they would lose. So he knows Tony Stark can't die. So he has to do this in order to save Tony Stark. It's the only way that they can save the future. So there is an explanation for why they don't kill Iron Man and commit to it. And I think that I'll give that a pass, because it at least gives Doctor Strange something to do in the movie that's interesting. And it adds a kind of interesting element to the movie that Tony is like the key to this in a way. And the movie's about sacrifice. The theme of the film is sacrifice, and Doctor Strange is sacrificing himself for the greater good. So my assumption is in part 2, it's going to be much more of a Captain America Tony Stark movie, and they possibly will die, and it's going to take them with the remaining Avengers to defeat Thanos and bring their friends back. Because here we are. After all this, we're at the ending of the movie. So at the end of the film, Thor has his axe. They're all fighting Thanos. They're defeating his henchmen. Then they're probably definitely going to kill Captain America in part 2 if Chris Evans has said he's leaving after part 2. And I also think that's why he doesn't have a lot of screen time here. I think they're going to give him a lot of screen time in part 2. And there's a line that's really funny. He meets Groot. Chris Hemsworth's all like, "Hey, you have a beard like me." And then he goes, "Yeah." And then he goes, "This is my friend Tree." And he goes, "I am Groot." And he goes, "I am Steve Rogers," which I thought was a very funny line and how Chris Evans delivered it. So Thanos shows up on Earth now with all of the Infinity Stones except for one. He only needs the final stone to complete the Infinity Gauntlet. So, and they couldn't get the job done with the Vision, and they're getting knocked out. And like I said, it's a sacrifice. So Doctor Strange is sacrificing himself, and the Vision wants to sacrifice himself. Characters are willing to die, except the ones who don't understand that they need to sacrifice others in order to succeed. The Mad Titan. God, that was a beautifully drawn comic. All this, that whole, everything with Thanos was so beautiful. Really love that book. So Thanos shows up. Thor is just kicking everyone's ass. He Deus Ex Machina and shows up and starts kicking ass. The Vision goes to start fighting, and so does Scarlet Witch. Who dies in this movie? Pretty much everyone except like Cap and Hulk and Thor and Rocket and Iron Man and a couple other people. But here is the big Empire Strikes Back cliffhanger of this movie, which I thought they were going to do. So Thanos shows up, and Scarlet Witch decides finally, okay, I'm just going to kill the Vision now. I need to do this to save the universe. So, dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards. Yeah, Downey killed that line. He's like, there's a bunch of space wizards, okay? He's trying to find steal an emerald from a space wizard. Which was really funny. No, Robert Downey Jr. was killer in this. So the end of the movie, she's destroying the Infinity Stone with her powers, and Thanos is coming up behind her, and she's using a blast at both of them. So this is about, Infinity Gauntlet is a really good comic, man. It's a really, I think they're gonna, but they have the ending of they have Thanos' farm in this one, but I guess they're gonna go back to it. Do you think they're gonna end Thanos' story the same way where he doesn't die? Thanos actually doesn't die in the original comic. He gets to go live a life of peace at the end. He becomes a farmer. Adam Warlock goes there. So I wonder if they're gonna do that. If they're actually gonna go there and not kill Thanos in part 2, and they're gonna have more of the cosmic Marvel space battles and stuff like that. So she's about to destroy it, and it feels like, okay, movie's over. She destroyed it, she saved the day, and Thanos is like, yep, I know, there was a lot of suffering, there was a lot of loss today. And then what does Thanos do? He reverses time with the Time Stone. So he reverses time, and now Vision is back with the Infinity Stone. Then he grabs Vision, kills him, and takes the stone, because he was able to reverse time now. So basically what Scarlet Witch did was pointless, and the whole Wakanda battle was pointless, and everything they did in the movie was pointless. Now, unlike The Last Jedi, where I think that didn't work, I do think it kind of works in this movie. So, no way. they were going to kill Thanos in a brutal way. Probably the most brutal way. See, I think the story would be better if they ended it like the comic where they don't kill Thanos. I think that would make the story so much more interesting. I think that's one of the best parts of the comic is that Thanos doesn't die. And that last line he has at the end when he's at the farm. So, anyway, he takes the final Infinity Stone, and he has the fully formed Infinity Gauntlet. He is Uber. He is the Mad Titan. He is God, basically. Thor shows up with the weapon strong enough to hurt Thanos. Now, let me throw this out there to you guys. Why didn't Thor cut off Thanos' arm? Am I the only one who thought this? So Thor hits Thanos with the axe, and it actually does damage. It penetrates his chest. It goes deep into his chest. And I was thinking to myself, okay, and Thanos says, you should have cut off the head. Now, I was wondering, why don't you cut off the arm? Now, I guess because he was using it, but wouldn't it make sense to go there with the axe and just cut off Thanos' arm, and then you'd have the Infinity Gauntlet and he wouldn't be able to use it? Screw cutting his head off. Although, also, why didn't Thor think about the head? Why did Thor think about just hitting him in the chest? That was pretty stupid. Like, of all places, did Thor think just hitting him in the chest was going to make the Infinity Gauntlet not usable? Like, why didn't he think about that? I don't know. I thought that was really weird, too. It was awfully convenient. Yeah, cut the arm off, right? Cut his damn arm off, and then you got the Infinity Gauntlet. Thor was jumping in from like 2 miles away. Yeah, but Thor does that stuff all the time. Leaping far away isn't a big deal for Thor. That's very easy for him. And why couldn't he aim for that giant bald purple head? Like, even Thanos says it like, what are you, a dumbass? Like, really? You know, I mean, that was kind of the thing. It was like, oh, okay. But, you know, it's nice that they actually don't nerf Thor in this movie near the end. Thor is actually powerful again and can actually... It's like, oh, he is a god. The scene where Thanos walks on water with the orange background, some guys started laughing during that. That's weird. They couldn't have known Thanos had all the stones. Yeah, but wouldn't you still try to kill him? Like, wouldn't you still try to... Like, wouldn't death... It's like people don't want to kill anyone in this movie. It's weird. Captain America killed hundreds of humans. I don't understand the hesitation. Yeah, I don't either. I'm just saying it's convenient. I'm not saying it's bad. But, yeah, no, Thor is super powerful in this movie by the end of it. He's really, really powerful. No Silver Surfer in this movie, who plays a major part in the original comic. So, Tony Stark is healed, and Thor looks at Thanos and goes, "What did you do?" And then you find out, the big cliffhanger, the big moment at the end of the movie, Thanos succeeds. He has this moment where he has a dream sequence fantasy where he's with little girl Gamora. And she's like, "Did you do it? Was it worth it?" And Thanos has now become dragon energy. And he has this, it's a really beautiful scene. It's very, like, visually, it's very awesome. He did try to kill him. He suck an axe. Yeah, but that was stupid. Why did he think that would work? Like, I don't know. Like, it just felt like a little off to me. I was kind of hoping more that, like, Thor would go for his arm or his head and Thanos would grab it and stop it. Not that Thor would actually get a hit on Thanos. Like, what, all of a sudden Thor can't aim? Like, putting it through his chest isn't a guaranteed kill with a guy like that. And Thor had already gotten his ass kicked by this guy earlier. You just think he would have planned it out a little bit better. I don't know. It just seemed like it was some... I don't know. I mean, I know he's trying to kill him, but yeah, you know, like, that's not a kill shot. That's not a total kill shot. And Thor should know better than that. And Thor kills a lot of people. Like, Thor kills people all the time. He knows you got to cut a head off. It would have worked if Thanos didn't have all the stones. That's true to a point, but if Thanos had the time stone, he could have just reversed time. So would it have worked? If Thanos has the time stone, right, that's all he really needs, isn't it? Because he can just keep reversing time over and over again and keep winning. And just avoid Thor's hammer. Or, I think they're kind of weird with the Infinity Stones that way. But whatever, you know, I'm not trying to go into that. It's just a little observation, a little nitpick, if you will. You know, because even Thanos acknowledges this. At first, I thought the remaining characters were the ones who died, and they were in Limbo World. So basically, Thanos succeeds, and Thor's like, "What did you do?" And then people start disappearing. They basically turn into ash. Well, I mean, lots of stuff could have happened. Why didn't Vision go to... Well, yeah, that's kind of my issue, though. I don't think the movie's that smart. I enjoy the movie as a blockbuster, but I think a lot of it is kind of, like, stupid and silly. Like, you know, you should think about every possibility and try to find the most logical one, and then we think about it, and then you can play with that. But some of the things in the movie I don't think were the most logical decisions by the characters, and I don't think they were some of the best decisions by the characters. And I thought it was very convenient writing. I don't necessarily think it was that clever, and that's what I'm kind of getting at. I think they could have been more clever with that stuff, and it would have had more impact. The other movie showed Thor wasn't the smartest or never thought things through. Yeah, but he was always good at killing people. That was always the thing. Thor was really, really good at killing people. And this isn't a moment of, like, smart or dumb. It's like a kill shot. You know, I mean, Thanos even says it to Thor. He's like, "You should have cut my head off." Like, he basically, you know, says it. So, it's in the movie. You know, and I was thinking that before it happened, and I was thinking, well, he's obviously not going to die because Thor's going to screw up. It just felt like obvious, like I knew it was going to happen. And I didn't like that. I wanted to be surprised. I wanted to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming or thought this version was going to work out, but it didn't work that way. It was everything I thought that would happen. It was kind of cliche in that way. And that upset me a little bit. I think they could have been more clever with the writing and how they executed that stuff. It was very obvious, is all I'm saying. I found it to be very obvious. And all of the big moments I found, except for a few. I didn't know the Red Skull was going to be in the movie. I completely agree with you. The movie wasn't clever, but I think it delivered on what it promised to me. No, I agree. It did deliver on its promise. I agree with that, too. I just think they could have been more clever with some of the writing. I wish they would have worked on that stuff a little more. Because they seem to do a lot of punch-up on the comedy, and they really worked a lot on Thanos. But I wish they would have thought some of those big dramatic moments and those epic moments out a little bit more. I wish they just would have put a little bit more time into them. Because I do think it's one of the only downsides of those big moments in the movies. They don't feel as awesome as they should. They don't feel as emotional as they should. Because they're just not that. They're not that. It's obvious to you, but Thor isn't known for. I don't know why you guys keep bringing this up. It's not about Thor being smart. You don't have to be intelligent in that moment. I mean, it's obvious from a writing standpoint, not obvious in what to do. I'm saying it's obvious when I'm watching that scene how it's going to play out. That Thor is going to go down with the axe, screw up, and Thanos is going to do what he does. I saw it coming a mile away. The writing was obvious, not that it was obvious how Thor should kill him. You misunderstand what I'm saying. I saw every beat coming that happened in the movie. I was never surprised by anything that happened in the movie. And that's a sign of obvious writing, not of Thor's character being intelligent or not. And I don't even think that really factors into that moment, actually. So Thanos succeeds, and people just start disappearing. And I mean, it's insane. T'Challa disappears. Is Scarlet Witch disappear? I can't remember. But like pretty much, they get rid of Black Panther, man. Black Panther is gone at the end of this movie. Several of the major characters in this film start, because Thanos destroys half the universe at random with the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, but Mike Tyson knows where to hit you to knock you out, right? So half the galaxy is at random. It's not like Thanos picked people selectively or anything like that. So they kill half of the MCU characters, if not more than that. Falcon goes away and is killed. And they all just blow up in ash, or they're just gone. All of the Guardians. That was the thing. I freaking said it, Blood Money. They do fucking kill Star-Lord, motherfucker. You said that wouldn't happen. You were wrong, motherfucker. I told you they were gonna fucking kill Star-Lord at the end of this movie. Listen to me, man. We had a discussion about this. I'm like, Chris Pratt's dying at the end of this movie. Doctor Strange dies. Drax dies. Star-Lord dies. Spider-Man dies. Tony's holding Spider-Man's in his arms, and he's like, something's wrong with me. I'm sorry, Mr. Stark. Spider-Man dies. Tony's the only one left at Titan at the end. Oh, there's no question. They are 100% coming back. None of these characters are permanently dead. None. I didn't want to go, Mr. Stark. Yeah, none of these characters... Let me make that clear. Nobody's dead at the end of this movie. They're clearly all going to come back, or at least most of them. They're not going to keep Tom Holland's Spider-Man dead. They're not going to keep Black Panther dead. Not at all. They're going to make several Black Panther movies. That movie made $1.3 billion. They're not going to keep... just almost none of... That's what kind of takes some of the weight out of the situation for me. Is that it's obvious that these people aren't going to die, and everybody there in the theater was so emotional and upset about it, and I was wanting to say to people, like, they're not going to stay dead. Like, you guys have to know this, right? Like, they're either going to use the Infinity Gauntlet to bring everyone back or reverse time, or the people went to an alternate reality and they're not dead. They're not going to kill frickin' T'Challa. They're not going to kill Spider-Man. So my big issue with this is that it feels like it was constructed to be this big emotional, dramatic moment, but I don't think it really has the weight it does. It's well executed, and it's sad. No, Loki will definitely stay. I think the characters who die in the movie, like, die will stay dead, but that ending, I don't think any of those people are going to stay dead. And I think it kind of hurts the movie a little bit, or it doesn't hurt it, but it's not this big epic moment I think that they thought it was, because it's obvious that they're not going to be dead. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. I wish they wouldn't have done so many people, because it took, because, like, Black Panther's not going to stay dead. It's like, oh, come on. I feel like some of them are going to stay dead, maybe, but the big characters aren't staying dead, and it kind of takes the balls out of the movie a little bit. As the movie felt like it had balls and stakes, and then I'm like, well, you're not going to commit to this. If they actually kept these people dead, this would be like the most awesome thing that's happened in the MCU. The characters who didn't fade to dust, Loki and Gamora, are probably perma-dead, though. I agree with that. I agree that those characters are dead. I don't care if they come back. It's still sad as fuck. Groot... No, they are sad moments. Groot dying and Rocket being like, no. Groot dies a second time. Well, just about Groot dying and... we are spoiled. We read Groot dying was sad. Wait, sir, we are spoiled. The Gauntlet is so good. Oh my god, the comic, I picked it up. Yeah, it is a good comic. If they didn't announce there was a part 2, it may have been better. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, they all have movies coming up. Black Panther 2's in production. They're working. James Gunn's writing the script to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So there's projects in development, so we know these characters aren't dead at all. I think they might keep Gamora dead. And I think Gamora to me is the weakest character in the Guardians, and they could just benefit, and it would also make Star-Lord a better character. Like, in my opinion, I think Gamora being dead wouldn't affect the Guardians films at all. Like, if she dies and it's just Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, and them, I think that would make the third movie an even better movie, because they would have lost a friend, and it would carry over to Guardians 3. It would be better for the screenplay. We Jeff Goldblum, as the Grandmaster. This is like a Song of Ice and Fire written long, long ago. You can only deviate so far. So, I'm not saying I wasn't emotional about it. It was sad seeing Spider-Man die in Tony's arms. It was sad seeing Groot die. It was sad seeing Black Panther, or disappear. I don't know if they died, but they disappeared. But they were trying to come across like they died. So everyone in the theater's like, oh! And there was this one guy behind me that kept going, no. This guy in his 30s. And when Spider-Man, he goes, no. And his friend was like, dude, calm down. He goes, no, shut up. And he's like, shut up, Spider-Man. Don't die. He was saying this. And I just start laughing at this dramatic moment. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? He's not dead. Tom Holland's, he's alive, I'm sure. What's actually really annoying to me is that the next movie's set to come out as Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, well, I think what'll be kind of interesting is seeing these Marvel films where half the Avengers are dead and half the universe, and how those characters interact with it. Thanos finds a way. So basically, yeah, the big cliffhanger is they kill off, and it's good. It's a good idea. I'm not knocking it. It's well done, but they're not actually dead, so it kind of took some of the weight out of it for me. There was a kid next to me asking her mom, "What's going on? Why are they disappearing?" You sure that dude wasn't fapping? I don't know, but he was very upset. Like, it was like, God damn, dude, I don't get this emotional watching Schindler's List. You really like Spider-Man. You're upset, bro. Like, I get it, man. Like, just calm down just a little bit. He kept saying no. No. I mean, it was like, Jesus, chill. No, that's not true. That's impossible. Search your feeling. You know those deaths don't mean anything in the long run. No! So the movie ends with everyone disappearing and Captain America being like, "Oh God," which was kind of a weird line to give Captain America to say in the ending, like, "Oh God." Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna think that they did this in the comic book. In the comic book, they killed like everyone, and then they used the Infinity Gauntlet to bring. I mean, they killed Captain America in the original comic. They kill like everyone. Thanos wipes out everyone in the original comic. Spider-Man's death still had me really bad. Movie start. Well, no, that's the thing. It starts off with Tony having a dream about having a son or a baby, and then he loses his surrogate son. So it's emotional in the sense of the characters and what they're experiencing. Tony is emotionally devastated in losing Spider-Man. He feels guilty. Rocket losing Groot. That's why it works. Is because you see how the other characters react to this, because they don't know they're not dead. We know as an audience and how the story's going to go that not everyone's going to stay dead. But the characters in the movie don't know that. To them, these are dead. These are their friends dying and their loved ones. So, no, it's something about the delivery of it I thought was just kind of weird. Like, oh God, like it was just kind of, I don't know. Yeah, what have we done or something? Yeah, I think they could have picked a better line of dialogue. I don't know. I thought that was a little... Good dialogue. Once again, funny movie. Really funny movie. Great action scenes. Honestly, good pacing, even though it's kind of doesn't have pacing. It's just one bombastic thing after another. But I didn't think it was dragged. It wasn't a boring 2 hour and 36-minute long movie, and that's an accomplishment. So by the end of it, I was like, everyone in the theater was all upset. I wasn't that upset about it. It didn't make me emotional, but I thought it was a good ending, and I liked the ending of the movie, and I like the movie a lot. I like this movie a lot. I think this is one of the best Marvel films at the very top. I think this is one of the best blockbusters to come out in the last few years. I think this is the best movie so far this year as far as spectacle entertainment. I think the actors all did great. I think the special effects team did great. I think whoever did the punch-up did a great job. I think the cinematography, I think the sound mixing, the sound editing, I think on a technical level, everything about it, I think, Captain America, now it's an Infinity War. That would have been hilarious. Yeah, they should have just went on the cheesiest line ever. I think silence would have been powerful too, yeah. I don't know if they needed Captain America. Yeah, this was the opposite of seeing Last Jedi. I said in my Last Jedi review that I felt cold and indifference I didn't think I would feel. And that kind of bothered me. I didn't feel that way with this movie. This movie made me think... this movie felt like it earned these 10 years. It felt like it loved the fans. It felt like a movie made for fans. Unlike The Last Jedi, where Rian Johnson seemed like he hated the fans, and he hated Star Wars and Luke Skywalker and wanted to tell you how much smarter he was than you. This film was made for the people who have stuck through Marvel for the 10 years and seen every movie, and that annoying guy behind me. And that's a beautiful thing. People can piss on Disney for their cynicism and how they own everything, and they turn everything into a product. They're going to make solo sequels, and how the Marvel kind of settles for this mediocrity, and they don't ever really try to elevate the genre or do anything unique with storytelling. But this film is a celebration of branding, of mythology, of these characters, of this universe, and of the people that have been loyal to it going back to Iron Man in 2008. And this is a love letter to them, telling them, hey, we understand, we get that you guys are the reason that this has lasted so long, and this is a movie for you guys. And we're going to leave you with this thing at the end here, so next year you can get the frickin' payoff. And there's more to come. And we spent $300 million on this, and we made sure to make this as epic and big and funny and entertaining as possible. We made this a movie that little kids could watch, and an old person could watch it. Anyone can watch. We gave you just enough of every character that you love or that you have a passing like for. We gave you enough here. We gave you an Avengers movie like you wanted, but we also gave you that villain that we never gave you. That everyone always complained about, that the Marvel didn't have good villains and they didn't develop the characters. The first scene's really good. The first scene, I think, is actually one of the best scenes in the movie. It's the tone of it. And this film has a darker tone. Unlike Civil War, there is death. Like if they would have killed War Machine in Civil War, people die in this movie, and it has weight to it, and there's consequences for people's past actions. Not all the relationships in this movie are solid, and people make mistakes. Even if I found issues with that, it makes the characters feel human. And it's a humanist story about sacrifice and what you're willing to give for the betterment of mankind and the universe. And Marvel is saying that, you guys have sacrificed your time, in a sense, and we're going to give you this. And here's a great villain for you guys that we never really delivered on. Here's the great special effects, cosmic stuff, and action in the mix. We almost, not all, it's a Doctor Strange to some movies. And here is finally the movie that you guys have been waiting 10 years for. Here is the payoff to Thanos. And I think they pulled it off. I think the Russos, this is an achievement in filmmaking. I think this is an achievement in producing by Kevin Feige. I think that this is an accomplishment that'll be looked back on a long time. I think there's hints of like the Two Towers here. And I think there's a hint of kind of what the Harry Potter franchise did and other franchises. But this is something I've never really seen before. And that's kind of beautiful in its own way. And I think people are really going to remember seeing this movie like when they saw Avengers in 2012. And possibly this will even have an even bigger impact because it was so many years waiting for it. And then at the end of the movie, Nick Fury is with the chick from How I Met Your Mother, and they're going to disappear. They realize people are disappearing. Nick Fury gets on a cell phone to contact the Avengers, and he disappears. And then the last thing you see is Captain Marvel is responding to it. Now, the Captain Marvel film takes place in the 90s by Ryan Fleck and Anna Bodwin, but Captain Marvel is responding to the call at the end of the movie. So the movie ends on and I had to sit through like 12 minutes of credits to watch this goddamn thing. But it ends with a message of hope that there's still an Avenger out there, there's still people out there, and the war's not over. They lost this battle. They got their asses kicked even. But there's still a war. And it's the Infinity War goes on. And Thanos is sitting in his little farm looking up happy and crying. And he feels bad that he lost Gamora. I don't know why Nick Fury wasn't in the movie before that. I actually thought that was weird. But Thanos was great. Robert Downey Jr. was great. Chris Pratt was great. Chris Hemsworth did a really good job. The comedy was the biggest surprising factor to me, that this is a genuinely funny movie with some good jokes. And that's all she is. I think the special effects, the cinematography, the visuals are the best out of any Marvel movie. I think this is the best looking Marvel movie. And I think this is a really good film. And I'm going to give my arbitrary rating in this spoiler review that went on forever. And Josh Brolin also gave a great performance and really outshined and did better than I even thought. Because I didn't like Thanos in Guardians. I didn't like him. I've never liked Thanos, and they pulled him off greatly. And they were loyal to the comics while still keeping it the same to this universe and adapting it properly. And I like this more than Civil War. And I'm very excited for Part 2. And Thanos' CGI looked terrific. And I also love Peter Dinklage in this, giant dwarf Peter Dinklage. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. They did make Iron Man feel badass again I agree, this was the first time Iron Man felt like Iron Man again. There was a sense of heroism and these characters being grander again, and Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Robert Downey Jr. It felt like a return to form for me, and it made me really happy. If you're a fan of Captain America, Black Panther, Bruce Banner, you're not going to get a lot of that stuff that you want, and you're going to be disappointed in that if you want some characters to get more screen time. And the movie's not perfect, but as a piece of entertainment, as a piece of as a pulp culture phenomenon, as a 10-year thing that they built up to, I'm give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I think maybe if I was being objective, it's kind of a 7.5 for me, maybe. But I think as just how I felt coming out of the theater, and I enjoyed the movie the entire time. I had a great time. I laughed. I was into the action scenes. I liked the levity of this film. I liked the lightness of tone. And I think overall this is a really, really good movie. And I think a lot of people trashing it or saying that it's overstuffed or that it's spread too thin or that it's too much of a good thing or that it doesn't work, it's not coherent enough. I think there's some validity to some of those criticisms, but I think the film itself actually overcomes those things and becomes something that's really, really good and was way better than I thought it was going to be. And I was very impressed with it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it again, and this time I want to see it in IMAX. So I highly recommend Infinity War. And I think this is the film that the critics said Black Panther was, but I don't think it is. I think this film is that movie. This is a Marvel, to put it quite simply. So thank you for watching. And in the comments section, please put your favorite moment from Infinity War. Tell me what you thought about the movie. What do you think about Part 2? What do you think is going to happen in Part 2? What do you think about the ending? Do you have some theories? And thank you for setting on this long, long journey with me. How long did we go here? We did an hour and 46 minutes where I went through the whole movie. Thank you for going on the spoiler journey with me. It's almost midnight here. I'm pretty tired. I didn't get any sleep. But I had a great time watching the movie. And thank you for being on this live stream with me. And you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the movie too, and I hope you enjoyed this review. So, as always, please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. And I would say please go support Infinity War at your theater, but you're gonna see it. I don't need to tell you to go see it. And is this some high piece of art? Is this some beautiful piece of art? No, but I think it's a damn good film, and I stand by that, and I'm not ashamed of saying that. And I don't think I have to say something like, for what it is. No, I think this is a good film overall. And that's about it. So you guys have a good time. I'll play you guys some outro music. I know this was a little long, but I kind of wanted to just go through the whole movie beat by beat. It's a film about sacrifice, and I think that theme holds it together. Thank you for trying, though. I appreciate it. I appreciate you trying. So I'll see you guys on Sunday, where I will be covering the box office of this film on Box Office Addict episode 41, and we'll look at the opening weekend, what is looking like to be 230 million, if not higher, and I'll discuss the box office of this film, which is going to be huge, and I'll answer some of your questions on Sunday. So please join me on Sunday between 4 and 6 o'clock Eastern to look at the box office of Avengers Infinity War. And be here next year for Part 2.